So recently, some rumors have been going about that G2 Esports might have to drop their roster due to financial reasons. Now, a tweet came out from Achilles saying, sources G2 Esports has allowed the current roster of Atomic Beast Mode Daniel and Coach Matthew to speak with other organizations for the 2025 season. G2's future in the scene is still to be determined, and that was kind of confirmed shortly after by the CEO of G2 saying that sadly the rumors are true. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but basically he's saying that they've lost a recent partner, which is a great resource for income for them that allowed them to maintain this roster last season, and they've lost them recently. So they're, as he says at the end here, we're still in touch with potential buyers that could help us save G2 Rocket League, and I sincerely hope that one brand would realize the fantastic opportunity to endorse the NA Avengers in Rocket League. So yeah, if they don't get a replacement for that partner, they won't be able to maintain this roster, and they'll be forced to drop them, and have them look for other organizations to support them, right? And that's kind of been the conversation, and we're gonna go into that today. Firstly, I guess for G2's actual roster, I don't think this is the biggest blow. I think there are a couple orgs out there that could be able to afford them, and if they can maintain them at the same price that G2 could, at the end of the day, they're still gonna get at least a similar offer, even if it is a little bit less from a different organization. I think Cloud9 has been mentioned a few times, but I don't want to delve too much into potential different organizations. I don't think we know too much about that. But I just want to talk about how crazy this is. I mean, this situation is absolutely nuts. I mean, G2 have made the grand final of every single RLCS event this year. That includes 6 regionals and 3 RLCS LANs. Out of the regionals, they also won 4 of those 6 regionals. Only going second twice in those regionals, and then for the RLCS LANs they won the London Major and then finished second at the Copenhagen Major and also at the World Championship. And I know they only won one out of 3 LANs, but those results overall are just incredible. You don't really see teams making that many finals in a row, and especially because it's not just regional, it's also on the world's stage every single LAN making the grand final. That's absolutely unheard of. Now, they didn't go over the line every time and only won one of those 3 majors, so I'm not going to say they're technically the most successful team of the season, but they're definitely up there, and their consistency is I mean, they've got the most consistently high results out of any team this season. I think that was fair to say anyways. Even, they didn't win the World Championship, so, you got that all running about, and BDS would probably be considered the most successful team this season, just because of that World Championship, but, yeah, no, G2 had the most consistently high results out of any team this year. And you'd think maybe they can earn a little bit more from that. You'd expect a roster like this to be profitable, maybe not in your usual, in the ways that you'd want, but you'd expect them to be at least, you could sustain the roster if they're making that many grand finals as a team. They're earning that much revenue through prize pool, through, notability of players. These players are all known. Atomic, Daniel, Beast Mode, everybody loves these players. Now, I'm not going to say that they're these crazy content creators making content all the time. That's not quite right. I think Beast Mode has been doing that a little bit, to be fair to him, but he's not the biggest name content-wise. But as pro players, they're all loved so much, especially by North America, of course. And their results have been so consistently high that they're on stream all the time. I mean, they can't stop being on stream, and they have so many supporters as well with the G2 brand behind them. You'd expect, come on, how are we not making enough money? And this speaks to kind of the scene of esports and Rocket League esports in general, that it's not too great right now. And let's talk about that a little bit more then, because obviously there's been a decline since COVID, and that has resulted in uh, laying off of staff. Though I'm not saying that the exact amount that was laid off that should have been that amount. I don't really know what amount should have been laid off, etc., etc. Um, but I think one of the big problems as well is actually esports is in a similar state as it was before COVID, which is probably the same for RLEsports. I'm not sure if it's slightly more, slightly less. It might be slightly less because I think generally speaking, Rocket League has been losing attention from Epic anyways, and people are talking more negatively about Rocket League more than ever probably. And it's been on a decline throughout the last two-ish years, I want to say 2 to 3 years. It's been on a decline. Yeah, players have not been very happy. Whether the game's actually being played less, I think maybe a little bit. Like compared to pre-COVID, maybe a little bit, but I think it's a very incremental, small step. So generally, the game is still very much alive. It's not, you know, I don't want to say it's dying. It's technically going down, which is not amazing. But the game is certainly not dead at the very least. If we are going to say the game is slowly dying, yeah, the game's certainly not dead. But I think one of the problems as well has been the fact that these players have been on these, high number contracts because of the COVID boom, etc. And because there's always an organization that's willing to spend a little bit more than another organization, these players have ended up kind of maintaining that high income, those high value contracts from the COVID era, and they haven't really been declining as fast as they should, which has led to some org issues as well. So that's also important to take into account. So it's not all the fault of RL esports and esports in general. It's not all of that. There are also external factors like that. And then as well, for Rocket League specifically, RL Esports, the format, especially the season we just had, the 2024 season, was a bit disastrous for org supports because organizations like Carmine Corp, they had the prospect of not even making the main event of RLCS Regional, so they could have a week where they're not even broadcasted once. They don't even have the potential of going into an event thinking, okay, we can lose 3 series here, or not 3 series, but lose two in Swiss, or blah blah blah, and regain. Like, it was just one brutal double elim bracket where they just lost, what was it, 1 round before making the main event. And when you lose that, then now your your chances of making that major are almost completely ruined, and making money is hard when you're not even in the main event. So it's kind of a big problem there, where you need that little bit of org security to allow teams to, let's say you make top 8, you're in the next main event. Some type of way to allow players to kind of have some job security, the org to have some security, just everything at once, really. And that's definitely something that has been a big problem since since this year, especially. I think this year, whilst the esport might have been declining a little bit already, well, it definitely was because post COVID and everything. And maybe there were some issues from Psyonix, Epic, etc. that weren't, maybe you'd want a bit better from them, but it was never quite this bad, Like this format, this season's format and everything, the layoffs have really resulted in a big decline, I think, in a lot of ways. Even though, now we're seeing some good updates, we're seeing Blast be very impressive as the ones doing the broadcasting now for RLCS, rather than ESL, which were the ones before, I believe. It is all doom and gloom for the esport, right? But yeah, it hasn't been amazing. I hope that we can kind of carry the momentum of a couple positives and kind of restart this this positive momentum, if you will, because it has been a transitional period for the scene for a little while, especially this year, and now we gotta see if we can kind of turn it around, like properly make it a transitional period, not just from good to bad, like good to bad and back to good, like find a way to actually turn that around. Because it seems to be very, 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 very tough to do, and the scene in general has struggled, I think, adapting to kind of the climate, if you will, the surroundings and of everything. But you know, everything should adapt eventually, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We should finally be able to loop that around back into a positive trajectory. But there are also even other issues, and I don't think this will mean that Rocket League will die, but it's something that kind of results in a very, how should I put this, plateaued progression line. Like, you can't imagine this going really like, oh, the game's gonna start booming, and maybe it could even start declining a little bit because of this, and I'll actually get to that point now, which is that Rocket League, it hasn't been figured out. I don't want to say that, but there isn't really much that makes people go, wow, I've never seen that before. I can't believe that happened. And don't get me wrong, a lot of time people they look at gameplay now and I think they do at least see that, wow, this is a fair bit better than it was before. I think that's pretty clear. But yeah, the level is just so high now that stuff like flip resets, nobody cares. You know, Zen was a breath of fresh air for last season, but Zen isn't. He's not a constant. This season, he wasn't doing that to the same level, and you know, people have also caught up to him. And now that that's happened, we're back to the season before, essentially the 2021-22 season, where you know people aren't really that shocked by the plays that are happening. We would have a little segment there where we had Moist slash Queso, you know, Rise, Vatira, and Joyo, who were very entertaining. But there's always like this. There's just little periods. So we got little period of Moist and Queso, and then that goes away, and then you know a couple of months go by, half a season goes by, or maybe it was even more than half a season, and then we get Zen. Cool, we get that, and then the entirety of this season has been kind of like meh, except for G2 has been entertaining at times as well with some of the shots that Daniel has been getting, especially. He's the main lookout for, I guess, entertainment, I would say, this season. Some other examples might be like a Tao and a Tao. He's definitely been entertaining. Maybe LJ as well. Furia are pretty cool to watch, but it's still few and far between. Like I'm kind of stretching when I mention those names. It's always like in moments, and it used to be a lot more constant. Where like if something happened, like everybody knew about it, and it would be more of a global reaction. Let's say, for example, the squishy ceiling shot, right? I mean, that everybody knew about that. I think that's the second most watched clip of all time, and it's just Squishy doing a ceiling shot. Nowadays, for something to, I mean, it's just simply not possible. Nothing could ever possibly get to that level of popularity, like ever again. It'd have to be something that would even beat the season 5 grand final 0-second goal from Justin. Something would have to be so hype. The esport would have to be so booming in terms of how competitive the teams are and how exciting the moments are being built. The storylines have to be incredible. The series have to be incredible. Just everything has to peak at one time for us to even have the potential of breaking that type of popularity again. That kind of mainstream. Everybody knows about this because you know. Because I really can only think about 2 major points where we reached that point, and it was probably those 2 clips. You know, the squishy ceiling shot is what I'm referring to from season 4, and Justin a 0-second goal from season 5. So that's way back. So yeah. Anyways, I'm probably ranting on a bit about this whole subject, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about how crazy this G2 situation is, considering, you know, they've been here since 2016 in season 2, so yeah, that's 6 years. They've been here for 6 years, and now, after that long in esports, they're being threatened with having to drop their roster. I say threatened. It might happen. So yeah, you know, since that's the case, I expect NRG to have to leave soon too, since they have been probably the longest running organization in RLEsports, as well as G2 of course. But unfortunately G2, they might be bombing out now, so yeah. Anyways, that was me. I hope you enjoyed this little rant. This video was probably a bit longer than it should have been, but anyways, bye bye.